When someone in public office abuses the public trust, that sells newspapers. To know about it is in the best interests of democracy. We know that national legislators with access to apparently very alarming information from their security briefs, maybe you still don't know about, enrich themselves. If we're in a war, isn't profiteering illegal? Is it not a serious felony if information that was held back could have made our national infection rate 1% less if known? Predictably, the muck-gray wall of brown-nosed mutual protectors closed in and nobody will do jail time. However, their constituents know and can decide if having ethically challenged war profiteers shy about revealing health-related factoids is the best they can actually do. How do we know this? The First Amendment. Remember, U.S. was where people came who had been oppressed by tyrants almost everywhere else. In any government, there's a creeping tendency towards tyranny. People who like to mind other people's business are drawn to political office, or, in some cases, to the ministry. Unchecked, you know people will run your whole life if you let them. In the mostly well-engineered representative democracy Jefferson intended, citizens are protected by the press and other elements of the First Amendment. Even the Second Amendment is safe only as long as there's a First Amendment. At every turn, whether from governments, monopolies, which generally only exist in free trade environments if government protects them, or people with wealth or power who might act against the public interest, press protects citizens. The press are not your enemy in any sense, not in America. This seems to be partisan now, but it's not a historically American sectarian issue. Conservatives want their liberties conserved. Liberals' very name reflects that freedom is their priority. This temporary political struggle is between a reincarnated hybrid of Henry Ford and Charles Lindbergh, both racist Hitler supporters. Except this America First Committee candidate's huge business doesn't build anything, and he's never done anything notable except manage to stay out of prison so far. Press points out bad behavior, and investigative journalists are saints with miraculous powers to find corruption. If the press in a freedom-loving America is anybody's enemy, it's only those who are corrupt and behave badly. The alternative to that is state-owned TV, and even Fox News doesn't want that job now that the Russians have made the offer, available on a conspiracy website near you. Commercial stations have commercials. Public radio has sponsors, calm people telling you what a business does, how it's helpful, usually a motto, website. Local network stations are losing investigative journalists because local news isn't always a budget priority. My local NPR station, KBSX, has local journalists. Their reporting is professional enough to be heard on the national programs. I know names and familiar, reasonably pitched voices of pros. I might pick up only a couple out of a lineup, but they seem like trusted friends. Local news happens throughout the day. The infrastructure and training is funded by BSU, and there's corporate sponsors, but public radio also needs members to survive, like a church or Costco, a local gym, or some insurance policies. Which of these are not in your budget? Aren't most of them a form of insurance? NPR is insurance against disinformation. I listened to BBC even as a child on a shortwave receiver. The Beeb is a marvelous source of information, as well as a 2-syllable shortcut for British Broadcasting Corporation, 9 syllables and 3 words. That's true verbal economy, which I obviously lack. BBC reports accurately and verifies its stories with evidence. When there's a false story, the Beeb doesn't just say it's fake, they prove it with evidence. It has a moral compass and doesn't merely report atrocities like those practiced by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It makes crystal clear that acts like butchering journalists and war crimes are wrong. In biblical language, the Beeb is no respecter of persons. It reports on human tragedy with compassion and courtesy to the disadvantaged. It employs and listens to experts. It has no interest in appeasing well-off corporate interests or supporting wild political agendas and conspiracy theories. It advocates for cooperation between countries. The Beeb consistently presents analysis that's rational and thoughtful. If you heard a source of information that was precisely the opposite of the Beeb, you might call it the Phoebe. My name's Jim, and I live in a green era where freedom might get expensive, but it will still be free.